The story begins with a seemingly trivial decision, which would later shake the entire world. Believe it or not, the seeds of today's biggest technological revolution, the internet, the iPhone, and the new world, were sown through a fatal mistake. And the hero of that mistake was Steve Jobs himself. At that time, Apple's dominance was soaring. The Macintosh era had just begun, and Steve Jobs was so engrossed in his unique, innovative vision that his foresight sometimes seemed like stubborn arrogance. It was at that crucial moment that he made the biggest mistake of his life. He hired John Sculley, the CEO of Pepsi, as the Chief Executive Officer, CEO of Apple. Sculley was a worshiper of profit and loss, corporate strategy, and marketing. Innovation was secondary to him. But the line Steve used to convince Sculley remains immortal in history. "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life? Or come with me and change the world?" Sculley responded to that magical call. Steve thought this move would propel Apple to the pinnacle of success. But this very decision turned out to be the biggest catastrophe of his career. Within a few years, a Cold War began between Steve and Sculley. On one side was Steve's dream, the urge to innovate and change the world. On the other was Sculley's goal: pure profit, numbers, and market dominance. Apple was internally split into two factions. Finally, the decision made by the Apple board in 1985 shook the foundation of Silicon Valley, the very company Steve had painstakingly built with his own hands. He was fired from it. Steve later confessed, "It was a public failure. Something I created was taken away from me." His biggest mistake had thrown him out of his dream world. This downfall, this humiliation, which could have crushed any person else, pushed Steve onto a new path. He didn't break down. Instead, he transformed this setback into his greatest strength and driving force. After leaving Apple, Steve founded Next. This was not just a new company, it was the manifestation of all the fire and dreams stored in Steve's mind. The Next computer was so futuristic that even today, tech experts say Next wasn't a computer from the 80s. It was a machine from the future. Next created a state-of-the-art operating system, fast, reliable, and revolutionary. This was the technological foundation that later gave birth to iconic products like the iPhone, iPad, macOS, and the App Store. Most importantly, when Tim Berners-Lee created the world's first web browser and web server in 1990, he did so on Steve Jobs' Next computer. Yes, the internet we use today is a direct consequence of Steve Jobs' mistake of being expelled from Apple. Concurrently, after being forced out of Apple, Steve purchased a small animation company named Pixar. Everyone laughed, saying Steve was wasting money. But soon, Pixar gifted the world Toy Story, a film that not only redefined animation, but proved that computers could also weave human emotions and feelings onto the screen. Today, Pixar is known as the world's most creative animation studio. This, too, was an incredible outcome of Steve's blunder. Fate staged an extraordinary drama. By 1996, the Apple company was virtually on the brink of collapse. In this situation, Apple was forced to buy the Next company. And with this acquisition, Steve Jobs returned to Apple. His comeback was like the return of a hurricane. One after another, he launched the iMac, iPod, iPhone, and iPad into the market. Every product was not just a device, it was a revolutionary weapon that changed the technological future of the world forever. Steve Jobs himself realized, if I never made the mistake of hiring Sculley, I would have never left Apple, and the biggest innovations of my life, Next, Pixar, and the iPhone would not have existed. His biggest defeat in life became his biggest victory, and the father of the world's greatest technological revolution. Friends, life sometimes pushes us down the wrong path. But sometimes, that wrong path leads us to a door from where the entire world can be seen anew. Steve Jobs' single mistake gave birth to the internet, the animation industry, and the smartphone, all of which brought about an unforgettable transformation in human history. If this story inspires you, you can like, share, and definitely subscribe to share it with other friends.